Taoiseach, parents up and down the country are feeling very badly let down as thousands of children have been left without a place on school transport. Many parents who relied on this service have been left high and dry after being told that their child no longer has a seat on the school bus. And incredibly, members of the public and TDs are being told by Bus Éireann that additional capacity is not being sought for pupils who didn't secure a ticket for this school year. Meanwhile, other parents who applied and paid on time had their children lose out due to the unfair lottery nature of the scheme. Families who expected to realise savings of €500 will now instead be heaped with additional costs as they try to find alternatives. And we have a crazy situation where parents are being forced to give up work in order to get their children to school. This is an utter mess. Each one of my constituency offices, like I have no doubt your own colleagues' offices have, in Mullingar, Longford and Athlone, have been inundated with contact from very worried families who have been relying on this service and now find themselves unable to get their children to school. And because of a government idea, poorly thought out and lacking the necessary investment. At the root of this problem, Taoiseach, is the failure of government and the failure of Minister Foley to plan and deliver the additional capacity needed. The Minister should have anticipated the increase in demand following the introduction of free school transport. She should have worked with Bus Éireann to deliver additional capacity and ensure that no child was left behind. But instead of facing up to her part in this debacle, Minister Foley spent the last few weeks in hiding. She refused to appear before the Education Committee to provide answers and, more importantly, solutions for families, despite being offered no less than 5 alternative dates. This demonstrates a real lack of respect and understanding of the impact this is having. It's only now, when the school term is well underway, that the Minister has agreed to come before committee. And I also have to say, Taoiseach, that parents were truly taken back at the reported comments you made at a Fine Gael meeting that the government made a mistake in waiving school transport fees. Waiving the transport fees was not the mistake. The mistake was in failure to invest in the additional capacity needed. And frankly, the government has made an absolute bags of this, and families need solutions, and they need them now. My Sinn Féin colleagues Donncha O'Leary and Darren O'Rourke have consistently called for an additional 10,000 places on school transport. That is the necessary level of investment to get on top of this issue, to get children onto buses, to get them to school, and to give relief to those parents, the length and breadth of the country, who are pulling their hair out with frustration. But Taoiseach, the really worst part of this is that government aren't even trying to fix the problem. Bus Éireann, in black and white, are saying they are not looking at additional capacity for these children. The message has been loud and clear. No more buses are planned. Simply get on with it. So, Taoiseach, how is the government going to respond? What is your plan to ensure that every child that needs a school bus place will get one? Will Minister Foley pick up the phone to Bus Éireann and tell them to look for more capacity, to look for more buses, to provide more places, and to undo this chaos currently in school transport?
Thank you, Deputy Clarke. Taoiseach, please.
Thanks, Deputy Clarke, for your question, and I'm keen to answer it. But just at the outset, this is the first time that I'm taking leaders' questions since the summer break. I'm conscious that I do so on the day that Thelma and her little brother Mikey, who died tragically in Westmeath, are being buried today in St Mel's Cathedral in Longford. And I think that brings to mind the other children who died violently in Ireland over the past few months. It was hard not to feel for the fact that we had so many tragedies involving children dying violently over the summer in Ireland. So as we begin this new term, our thoughts are with the families and communities in Tala, in Westmeath, and indeed in Waterford, who are grieving for loved ones taken too tragically and too soon. The death of children affects us all in ways that we can barely put into words. It's a sadness that cuts deeply, because we know in our hearts that it's not the natural order of things. And it breaks our hearts to have so much joy in silence, so much joy and laughter silenced in this way. So we pray for healing and peace in the days and months ahead. And in this time of tragedy and terrible pain, we in this House share with the families and communities affected our sorrow, our compassion and our love. Ar yeiste go raibh anam. Just in relation to the Deputy's question, at the outset I just want to acknowledge that school transport is a vital public service. It benefits tens of thousands of pupils and families around the country and is really important, particularly in rural areas, in making sure that children can get to school. We're very much aware of the concerns that parents are expressing. You can be sure that in constituency offices across the government parties, this has been the biggest issue, I think, over the last couple of weeks, particularly for rural constituencies. It was introduced as a government measure to help with the cost of going to school. There was the increase in the back-to-school clothing and footwear allowance, the extension of the school meals programme, and the decision was made to waive all fees, saving families up to €650 relative to last year. Next year, perhaps, there'll be a nominal fee, but that is a matter for next year, and I accept that the issue this year is one of capacity. In total, 124,000 tickets have been issued as of September, and that is an increase of 21,000 over last year. So there is a lot of extra capacity. Now, it's not fair to say that Minister Foley didn't plan for that. 21,000 additional tickets is not a small number, but I appreciate that it may not have been enough. As I say, that capacity has been secured from Bus Éireann, and Bus Éireann continues to process applications, and they are scheduling additional services in line with the eligibility criteria of the scheme. Minister Foley, as you mentioned, is going to go before committee quite soon. We'll be happy to answer any questions that deputies have, and that will include questions and proposals that deputies have around additional capacity and engagement with Bus Éireann.
Tánaiste, Deputy Clarke.
Firstly, Ceann Comhairle, I want to concur with the expression made by the Tánaiste in relation to Mikey and Thelma, and to also express our thoughts are with those, the passer-by who came to their aid, to the medical services, to the staff in the hospital and all those first responders, but also with the children of St. Clement's National School and the Montessori that the children attended. Their loss has left an indelible mark, not just on Multifarnham and on Rathdowne, but into the wider community and in fact across the country also. The Minister, or Tánaiste, I heard you mention the importance of school transport to rural areas. You are correct and right. You have referenced the concerns of parents, again correct and right. The vital nature of this service, again correct and right. But I have to put it to you that those 21,000 additional tickets are nowhere near the demand that is out there in rural communities. Now, if we are serious about tackling carbon footprints, if we want to increase the accessibility to schools, well, a vital part of that is the school transport system. That needs a fundamental reform and significant investment to be put into it to ensure that it is fit for purpose, not only for the children of today, but also into the future. At the moment, we have an utterly bizarre situation where staff in Mullingar Regional Hospital cannot get their children to school. What does that say about us as a society? What does that say about us as a state? That we couldn't simply do the maths and figure out what the additional capacity would be. I can't be the only TD standing in this room whose phone started ringing the minute that announcement was made with expressions of interest from parents. I don't doubt for 1 second that Minister Foley received those calls also. What I do not understand and do not accept is the utter failure to plan in this regard.
Thank you. Tánaiste.
Thanks very much, Deputy. As I pointed out in my initial response, there was planning and additional capacity was provided. 21,000 extra tickets this year. That's 21,000 more children across rural Ireland on school buses this year versus last year. That's a big increase in additional capacity and will be welcomed by a lot of families who didn't have school transport before, now availing of it. In line with normal practice, all eligible children who completed the application and ticket registration process on time will be accommodated on school transport services where they're in operation. So for those who are eligible, we're confident that they will be accommodated. Where it comes to concessionary tickets, as you know, and is always the case, that's more complicated. That requires there to be availability, and that's the issue that is arising now. And as I say, Minister Foley will be before committee and will be happy to answer questions and hear suggestions from deputies as to how we can resolve it.